Hey friends, good morning. It is Saturday morning and it is Lisa Mason Ziegler coming to you here on, I'm not going to say a crisp fall morning, but we're heading in that direction. You know, the dew is heavy. The temperatures aren't quite so steamy in the morning. So I hope you're having a wonderful, good Saturday morning. And thanks for meeting me here. Today we're going to be doing our one tray of our weekly sunflowers, but then I need to do a little job that I thought I might as well do it with you guys. I'm having to grow some eucalyptus in up to normal size, and I do that by potting it up into a 2-inch block. It's really not the right time of the year, but I need it for a photo shoot in about 6 weeks. So we're going to be potting up some small blocks that has eucalyptus in it up to the 2-inch block. And then I'll be happy to answer all of your questions. So if you are new here, welcome aboard. My name is Lisa Mason Ziegler, and I'm like the head bottle washer here at the Gardener's Workshop. And the Gardener's Workshop started out as a little, and it still is little, a small urban cut flower farm in the middle of the city back in 1998, and has just kind of warped into a lot of other really cool things that, thanks to you guys, we are just always kind of adding and listening to y'all and doing things. And you can learn more about us and the work that we're doing over at thegardenersworkshop.com, which is basically an educational platform, and our online store, which is all the gardening seeds, tools, and supplies that I use that I mention from time to time, you can find over there, as well as our online courses. And so we have a whole library over there, whether you're a home gardener or a flower farmer or a budding flower farmer or a flower farmer that wants to scale their business and maybe dabble in a new area. We have a lot of good stuff over there. And while you're over there, be sure to sign up for the Gardener's Workshop Farm News, which is a weekly email that kind of just gives you all a bunch of headlines. And here's a headliner for you. I know that many of you join me over inside the Gardener's Workshop Live Shop app on Fridays, where we do, see all this behind me? This is our harvest from this past week. You're not really seeing it all. Let's see if I can do that, give you a better view. There's a lot of stuff over there. And on Fridays at 12 noon inside our app, I go through this harvest, kind of giving the additional 411. And you can grab the app and go in and watch the replays. But here's the news flash. In fact, you know, one of the really cool things is that I have each week special offers and bundles. And normally they're only available until Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Well, we've decided to extend that time to include you guys until Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern time. So that means you can go into the app, watch the replay, or just shop and take advantage of the specials over there. And you can do that until 8 a.m. Sunday morning Eastern time. And I want to just say before we get started here, and I forgot to pick up my sunflower seeds are over there, to remember, if you are enjoying, please subscribe to my channel, like and share it with your friends. And also, if you're watching on Facebook, do that same. And friends, I don't know if you're catching my podcast, but we have some awesome podcasts coming out right now. I interviewed a great guest just this week that'll be coming out. And there's just a lot of fun stuff and good stuff. Yesterday, I recorded a podcast. My hands are so dirty, y'all. I recorded a podcast called Embracing Seasonality. And it's really about how field growers like me, we have really got a special niche in how I really love doing that. And it's the easiest, simplest way to garden and grow. And so that's coming out. And so if you are enjoying the podcast, please review it on the podcast app you're listening on, because that helps them to show us to more people. All right. So we're not going to do sunflowers first. I'll have to run over and get my seeds that are over there when it comes time. So as you know, y'all know I'm a soil blocking person, and we are knee deep in cool flower seedlings right now. And I did bring one tray out here just to show you. This is one of about 10 of the 10 different Rudbeckias, black-eyed Susans that we grow. This is Denver Daisy, and this is 100 plants on this little tray. This tray is, I think, like 5.5 by 18 or something. And you can find these seeds. Rudbeckias are a really useful cut flower. It's amazing for native bees. It's one of their favorite families to nibble from. And they're great cut flowers. So we grow a lot of Rudbeckias. So this little thin tray, which I can fit 7 of these across the stainless steel rolling rack that, came from a big box store, on one shelf with our big grow light. So that's about 700 transplants per shelf. Pretty amazing, right? But we start Rudbeckia and feverfew, really the first ones of our cool season transplants that we're going to fall plant, because while they germinate fairly decently quick, they grow so slow. So I've just learned to give in to their testiness, and we just start them a little bit earlier. So these were started August 15th. Today is the 10th. So these little boogers are still only about 3.5 weeks old, and I like to have them a little bit bigger than this. One of the tips, I'm trying to find where I'm going to put this. One of the things that I try to practice when I'm fall planting transplants is I like to have a little bit bigger transplant than what I like to have when I'm doing like warm season annuals in very early spring, because these guys aren't going to put on a lot of more top growth. They're going to be planted into cool soil, which is going to encourage them to build a great root system, but they're not going to be doing a lot of vegetative growth. So I want to give them a little anchor, right? That's all that top is at this point in time, is an anchor for those great roots. And so I like to have them a little bit bigger. So I will answer your questions. Please post them, and I'll circle back around after we move up these eucalyptus and after I then plant my sunflower seeds. And I don't have Jessie here this week helping me. Jessie is one of our team members who's also a flower farmer, and she's involved in an event today. And so I am just going to say to you, anything I mention or talk about, you can find over at thegardenersworkshop.com. And sorry, friends, I'm lighting up my phone to make sure we really are over on Facebook. I never know. I can see how many people are live, but it helps me, especially when I don't have tech backup help, to really, yep, I see we're really over there. So as I've mentioned, I think from time to time, I'm working on a really big project right now, and will be through the rest of this season and half of the next season. And so I'm growing a lot of seedlings out of the proper time to be able to have the seedlings for imaging, right? And so eucalyptus, which has become a really big crop, right? If you check out I posted on social Instagram and Facebook this morning, the picture of 3, oh my goodness, of the most beautiful eucalyptus varieties that I grew from seed this year. And anyway, they're just so very beautiful. So I'm growing them from seed, and eucalyptus, I would compare eucalyptus seed growing transplants like Lisianthus or like that Rudbeckia. They are super slow. They're much slower than Rudbeckias. They're like Lisianthus. It takes 12 weeks to get like a transplant this big. So you have to start them early. Well, I'm not starting them early because I would normally not be planting these until like early April. They are a warm season tender annual, but I'm trying to get a transplant to take a beautiful picture of. So I have this little tray of silver dollar eucalyptus. We have 3 seeds available, 3 varieties available on our website, and you can learn more about those. So I have made these 2-inch blocks, and you know what I noticed after it was too late for me to fix it? Notice how the height is different on these. You know why that is? Because I was in such a hurry and I put too much water in my tray. Look at this. This one is literally sinking as I've been talking to y'all. I put too much water in the soil blocking mix, and it was too juicy when I pushed them out. You can see these ones on the end are fine, but these 4, which I'm leaving them like they are, they'll be fine, are kind of shrinking, kind of like a woman with osteoporosis, right? So if you want to post your questions, and at the end, I will circle back around. But I'm just going to like do my little job here of bumping up these eucalyptus. And I'm going to see, first off, if I can't steal the tape off of this and put it on here so I know what this is. And I know the date they were ultimately started. And so I don't need all these eucalyptus seedlings that I have here. So I'm going to like strategically pick the nicest ones. And see, there it is. And these babies, like I said just a minute ago, are like, let me see if I can get you to see that root a little bit better. Can you see? You can see it dangling down there. This little booger is already only about 3.5 weeks old, and look how little he is. So I'm going to just bump him up into the large blocker so that he can grow on into a bigger, prettier little transplant. And so why I bump up some seedlings and not others, stuff that are so super slow to grow, you can only grow them in these small blocks for so long. I'll kind of try to move these so maybe you can see these too. You can only see them for so long. I mean, you can only keep them in this little block for so long. And that's why when something needs a longer growing period, so can you see that little root hanging down there? And I never really try to touch the blocks when they're super wet like they are right now because I wanted to cut them apart. I try not to handle the blocks with my fingers because it's really easy to squish them. So I use, this is the little plant ID card, ID tag, but a popsicle stick, anything like that. And that's it, friends. You're just simply popping it down into this hole. So this is the 2-inch block that I put the insert on to make this perfect hole to receive this. I hear something chewing. Stand by. Friends, I'm afraid I'm going to have to get up and go look. There is something inside my germination chamber. Stand by, y'all. Look at the fall harvest. You hear me scream, you know what it was. And I'm looking and I can't figure out what it is. Sorry, y'all. Totally unscheduled. It sounds like a little guy chewing, but I don't see anything in there. And then when I got there, it sounded like maybe something dripping. I'm not sure what could be dripping in there because it's not turned on. Anyway, totally freaked me out. Y'all, that's what you get when you get Lisa live, is you just never, ever know what you're going to run into. All right. So we start them in the small blocks because it is so much easier, to get them to germinate and then to grow them to this size. If I'd have put that little tiny seed in this big block, I would have had really a hard time keeping that little teeny seed on the top evenly moist and warm. And that's why we start them in the small block and then move them up. But also, I rarely bump up stuff. This is just one of a very few really slow growing things are the only ones that I do this with. Those are really pretty roots. Can y'all see that? Really nice. This is, I will say, the perfect stage to bump them up. And I have to tell y'all, right before I came on here, I went in the house to change my clothes. And when I opened my front door, a small, about 2 feet long, not 2 feet, 18-inch long black snake fell off of the top of my door onto the porch. I mean, that has never, ever happened before. So I'm a little spooked, if you might understand what I'm saying here. All right, so I'm just going to keep on doing my job here, and I'm keeping my eye on whatever is making that noise over there. It's almost like, now I'm looking up at the ceiling to make sure there's nothing leaking up there. So I'm just going through and selecting the largest, biggest, nicest ones, because we'll see there's going to be a little contest with these guys. They need to figure out who's going to be the prettiest to be the one featured in the photo shoot, right? That's always the contest around here. Oh, I just killed that one. That's what happens sometimes when you do things live. They don't quite go as you would want them to. And so literally I'm just making sure that this block is making contact on the sides, right? And just squishing it down just a little bit, kind of snugging it in. Oh, I just messed up another one. You know what it is? The root. All right, I'm not taking that one. All right, here's another one. So this is Eucalyptus Silver Dollar. And interesting side note about this particular variety that we learned, that this variety often has what's called rogues. Those are just sporadic, different looking plants, grow from the seeds. They kind of revert back, right? And so some of them, and I'll show you one. I've got a really good rogue in here. I don't grow the rogues on. They oftentimes really do go on. I don't want to use that block. I'm not going to use that really short block, because what will happen if that's the best one that grows, that block won't be a good representation of what it should look like for a photo, right? So that means he'll get knocked out of the running. So again, I'm just snugging it in. And some of these are just so small. All right, so I have 5 left. So I now need to start like really triaging which one am I going to do next, right? So this is kind of a nice one. And they just slide right into the hole. Works pretty dadgum good. And again, I do not do this, friends, to 99% of the flowers that I grow. It is that few handful of, first off, of plants that we don't grow a high volume of. And secondly, that they're just such slow growers that we don't want to leave them in these blocks. And I will tell you that in my, and see, 2 seeds got sown into this one. So let's see, which I guess I'm keeping this one. Y'all, I'm so curious to find out what that noise is. All right, I need one more. All right, drum roll. Who's it going to be here? There's several really small ones. This little guy's kind of curled, and that's the short block. So if he overcomes all of his shortcomings, he'll be in good shape. All right, so I'm going to pop this one up and show you. I'm actually just going to pull it out of the block. See how this one has this really elongated, you can almost even tell from at a distance, it's at a different color than all these others that are back here. And so this, I've only had this happen with Silver Dollar. You can just see that it's got a little bit of a burnty kind of color there, where these are solid eucalyptus color. And so in the Silver Dollar seed, I pull those out. I mean, we grew some out to figure it out. And we found that we really didn't like the look of it. And so we just cull them out. And there you go, friends. There is 16 eucalyptus plants that will grow on in this block. And normally these would be, you know, I'm even suspicious. I'll show you this too. I'm suspicious that that's a rogue right there. Its leaf is a little too long compared to the rest of them, but it's got the right color. So I am going to just go with it, right? So y'all, sorry, I touched something when I did that. All right. So these will just go back into the grow room. They'll be under grow lights. They'll get watered every morning like everybody. They'll get food once a week. And then these little guys will grow up. Now, These are growing up for a photo shoot that's going to happen in probably late October, early November. But if I was starting these to plant them out in my garden, I would typically start them 12 to 16 weeks before I wanted to plant them. Start them in the small block, grow them for 3 to 4 weeks, then bump them up to the 2-inch and grow them on. You just get more options when you have more time with a little bit bigger mass of soil. All right, so let me get rid of this and I'm going to grab my sunflower seeds while I'm over here. Y'all, I can't resist looking in this box again to see. I don't see anybody. So I have our same tray of sunflowers that we made last week. You know, I mixed my own Pro Cut mix seeds because I had run out, right? And I've made a tray. And so let's talk about sunflowers as we are coming down to the end of our sunflower sowing time. And I have a great tip I want to share, which I've spoken a little bit about in the past, but it's called light interruption. And it is, you know how the days begin to get shorter, obviously, right? As we're heading into fall. This is true in spring, very early spring, and then it happens again in fall. As days get shorter, that triggers some plants to go into action. That's what dahlias are living for, right? And cosmos. While they will bloom all summer, they really put the party hat on when these days come. Well, other plants try to keep doing their job, but they are just going to naturally be shorter and smaller blooms because the days are shorter. Well, sunflowers are one of those. And so you may have heard, and you may have heard me even say that the Pro Cuts, which is my favorite sunflower to grow, lots of colors, great variety, they hold up forever in the vase normally, that they are what's called day length neutral. And what that means is that they will continue to set bud and bloom even when the days are shorter. However, they will be smaller on those days, right? So I talked to Dave. I mean, Dave told me this tip, and I've never really done it because I'll be really honest, our customers absolutely adore the smaller sunflowers, of which I think I have some right here. I was looking for the Pro Cuts. Oh, they're over here. I'm just going to bring this whole bucket over. So this is our Pro Cut mix, which is what I'm starting today. And you will just notice that all of these, I mean, look at this, y'all. That's the red, which we call chocolate, right? This is here is a bicolor demonstrating its abilities of dropping its leaves prematurely, which is what they all do, all the funny colors. Look at this. See how big this is or how little this is? Our customers adore them this way and even smaller. Look at this little guy. He's even smaller. I mean, who doesn't want a bouquet full of these for pop and color? And sunflowers last so much longer. I mean, look at these. I can't stop looking at them, friends. They are just the darn best. So the blooms will naturally, because of the day lengths getting shorter, will be smaller than they are when it's mid-June and July, when the days are long and they're getting bigger, right? So if you would like for your plants to be bigger, your sunflowers to be larger going into the shorter days, I think Dave said that you would do this for before seeds sown before April or before, and I'm not sure if he said August or September. It would make sense to me for it to be September 1st, or actually August, the days get shorter, but it's extra work. So you have to weigh what you want and how bad you want it. So if you do what's called interruption light, and we're talking about not grow lights necessarily, we're just talking about daylight. So that means if you can provide 1 hour of interruption light in the middle of the night to break that darkness up, it does the job. And what What Dave suggested was like a lamp. If you're growing in a grow, it might you're starting your seeds inside, or that's not true. If you're for when you're growing them outside on like where I do on my porch, out in full sun, they're out there all day long. You could put a lamp or some kind of a drop light on a timer to just come on at midnight for 1 hour, right there where your seedlings are, and that'll do the job. The other option is to grow and to do that also out in the field. I mean, you can take this to all levels. He said doing it for the first 2 or 3 weeks will make a difference in how big they are. And if you continue to provide that light for just 1 hour at night, even out in the field, some people actually string those bigger decorator lights. I forget what you call them, like porch lights, party lights, out in their field and have them on a timer to come on. He said, or, you can grow your transplants indoors under grow lights for the whole time they're growing as transplants. And that would give them a really great start and would encourage them to grow it bigger. So I thought I would share that. And while that all sounds like a great idea, it takes a lot of logistics to do that. And I found that I could sell the heck out of the small ones, and my customers looked forward to the smaller sizes of fall. So as is my way, quickest, fastest, most least expensive way to do everything for the best end result is my way of flower farming. And so while I'll keep that in the back of my mind, maybe next year I'll do it all. This year we experimented and shared the experiment that I did last year about starting sunflowers so much earlier than whenever any of us think that we could, and what a great success. And we had people all across the world that had sunflowers for Mother's Day this year. Well, maybe next year, it didn't happen in this year, friends. Maybe next year I'll do the experiment of following some sunflowers by doing this interruption light and trying to figure out how to do it. And somebody will have to remind me to do that because I'm a little overwhelmed these days. So we love the small sunflowers, but just be aware of that. And so if you're just joining us to do sunflowers, the bottom line is this. We start a portion of sunflowers every week from as early as possible to as late as possible in the season, which for us is about 26 to 30 weeks, to have sunflowers every single week to puff up our bouquets, to sell to our commercial customers, to make straight bunches for supermarkets for all those years, right? So the way that we do that is that we start them indoors in these 128 plug trays, which you will find on our website. The soil that's in these trays is not the same as the blocking mix that we use for soil blocking, which is just kind of a special recipe. So there's no need for that over here. This is simply 50% of any potting soil and 50% finished compost. We literally buy bales of the potting soil and buy a few 50-pound bags of finished compost all at the same time. Bring them home, mix them together, and then dump them into a big tub so it's ready to roll each week when I make my trays. We use, and I did not, y'all, I'm so ill-prepared today. I've done so much this morning. And my man left to go for a ride right before I went on, and so I was totally distracted. We use masking tape and the garden marker, which you can find the garden marker on our website. It is made to withstand outdoor conditions, meaning UV rays. And I'll show you an example. This is the tape from the last group of Pro Cuts or sunflowers that was put in this tray. And that's from July. This tray sat outside for 3 weeks in sun and rain, and it looks no more worse for the wear. That pin holds up for months and even beyond a season. So that's how I use masking tape and that marker to mark the tray. And I find it's really important. Mostly, it's important to know which varieties you're growing, but the date is really important because think about this. If you're starting sunflowers every week, and let's just say you're starting one tray, this is a 128. That means 128 cells here. So you have 128 plants. Imagine back in our high production days when we started 10 trays every week for 26 weeks. Think how many trays would be out on my carport or actually out on the porch for a 3-week period. that'd be 30 trays. It's really easy to get them mixed up and to not plant them together. So I really recommend that you do your prep work and put tape with the name on it. Now, my suggestion is to start at least, when we were in high production, we only started one variety of sunflowers, and that was Pro Cut Orange. It's the most versatile. It's the most popular. It is the strongest grower with the strongest necks with the longest base life. If I was doing that today, I would probably make my own mix in-house, and I would mix Pro Cut Horizon, which is orange with the facing upward, and Pro Cut Orange, mix them, and that's what I would sow every week. You do not need to be worrying about different colors and keeping track, and you just can't imagine how confusing it gets, because we learned that orange sells every week. Everybody loved them. They're so, well, that is what this is. Let me find a pretty one. They're all so pretty, y'all. This is Pro Cut Orange. This is the standard sunflower. This is what people think of when they think of sunflowers. All these other cool colors, they don't even think they're sunflowers, y'all. They think you have something special, more special than you know it is, right? So, but what I'm starting these days is the Pro Cut mix. There's 12 different colors of Pro Cuts in here. And this is what I'm starting for the rest of the year. I'm going to start sunflowers until the end of September, pushing the envelope, risking the last 2 weeks because they may or may not make it. But the last few years, our fall has been so long past our frost date that I kicked myself for not having more sunflowers. So I'm pushing the envelope. So I thought by doing the Pro Cut mix, I'm getting all the colors, the great fall colors, as well as the oranges and the horizons and all of that. So I'm just going to proceed to do this, and then I'll talk about what the rest of the process is in case you're a newbie. So this is a 128 plug tray. It is 50% potting mix and 50% compost. And I'm just dropping a seed on the surface of each cell. And you'll see the rest of the process in a minute. So what'll happen is after I push them down, then I'm going to take, after we're done here today, I'll take them into my grow room and I will put them on the floor where I have a drain, and I will water them really well using a watering can with a sprinkler head. And that will water this tray, and I go over them twice to be sure that it's thoroughly wet. Then I pop them up onto my seedling heat mat, because getting the sunflowers to pop quickly and helps them to have a super strong root system and gets them all to pop at the same time, so you don't have any late comers to the party, right? And that super strong root system will pay off when you go to pull these seedlings out of the plug tray when it's time to plant them. So I will pop them onto a heat mat. Once 50% or so show signs of life and they're cracking, then I will move them to one of two places, depending on what I'm doing and what I have room for. These realistically will be taken directly out onto the porch into full sun and be watered and grown on until they're 2 to 3 weeks old. So when I pull on the stem, the whole cell easily comes up and the plant comes out. Then we're going to plant them. But I want to say this first. The other option besides putting them out on the carport or on the porch is to actually pop them under grow lights. But I don't have any grow lights available right now. We're so overrun with cool flowers. So you can grow them on indoors if you need to, right? And then they'll be planted out into a garden bed that's been prepared with the dry organic fertilizer, and you can find that on our website and learn more about that. It's processed chicken litter that is OMRI certified and ready to go into the garden, and it has the directions there. And we will then plant the plants. So the fertilizer goes down. I incorporate it. There's no Bio 360. That's the mulch film that I use on most all of my beds, but not sunflower beds. Because think about this, these sunflowers are from seed to bloom about 60 days. If you're planting them when they're 3 weeks old, that is already a third of their life. They are going to very quickly go on to mature and bloom. We feel like it's just a waste of resources. So we do not put down film. We also do not put down irrigation because we get a lot of rain here in southeastern Virginia. We're kind of in a drought right now, but this is pretty unusual. So if you want to lay irrigation, you would do that before you actually plant. We plant 5 rows in a 30-inch wide bed, and we plant the plants 6 inches apart in the row. And that gives us these perfect size. I mean, this is the size I'm aiming for pretty much year round. This is what our commercial customers want. And that's what makes for perfect bouquet making. But in the fall, you can see they can be a little bit smaller. It really depends on, again, your light situation, how much water they get, and the nutrition that's in the soil. So I will take this tray now in there, and when I water, so sunflower seeds need darkness to germinate and need to be covered with soil that just helps them shed their little shell that's on them. And so when I water, that's going to wash the soil off the walls of the cell and cover the seeds. And friends, it is really that simple. If you are not sowing if you're a flower farmer, flower grower, and you're not sowing sunflowers every week, you are missing the boat on an amazing cash crop. To puff up whatever, I'm not saying you should only grow sunflowers. This is just an inkling of the things that we grow here on our farm. And when you put sunflowers with this, I mean, it puffs up our standing orders, our bouquet ingredients, the whole 9 yards. And so, friends, those sunflowers are going to very quickly turn into this. And I mean, so this is not a pro cut. These are in the wrong bucket. This is double Sun King, I think. But all these others are pro cuts, and they are just, the hard part's not growing them. The hard part is finding what your market's going to be to sell them, right? I was talking to somebody about that yesterday. All right, y'all, I'm going to come for your questions. The chewing, dripping noise has stopped. So what does that mean? I don't know, but we'll figure that out, right? And I do want to show you this too. I mean, I'd love to show y'all. See hairy balls right there. We will have that seed back on the store probably in a couple weeks. We've been without that seed for 2 years, and I was able to secure it. It's en route. So you can actually get on the wait list either in the app, which the app and our website are 2 totally separate deals. And you can get on a wait list at either place. But that seed is on its way to us. And so you can see all the really cool. Do you see those white marigolds right there? Oh my gosh, y'all. First off, they're low fragrance, which is awesome for those of us that don't like the smell, but rabbits love to eat them. So you really need to protect them. I mean, is that not fall or what? Look at that orange coxcomb, the white marigolds, and then those pumpkin and eggs on a stick, which are eggplant varieties. Those are some cool new things that are coming up. And look at this. These are spinning gourds. And I didn't bring the dried ones over here. They dry just like the egg, just like the birdhouse ones do, and they make the most awesome Christmas ornaments once they're dry, and you can paint them. But this is a spinning gourd. You would start these in the 2-inch block. You've seen the plants to these previously. I've shared them. But is that not just, this is a bowl my daddy made out of green heart. But this is like harvest table decorations like nobody's tomorrow, right? So I am going to pull this up. I'm sorry, I'm just looking. Whenever Steve's out on his bike, I'm always keep an eye on my phone. All right. So I'm going to go back here and look for some questions. So you can tell that Jesse's not here. I'm just, so if you see anyone posting the sunflower emoji, those are some of our students for any of our online courses. And friends, my flower farming school course enrollment only happens once a year for 5 days. It comes October 1st. Don't miss it. I would love to have you join me on the inside. And, somebody asked me the other day, this was a question I got, and I'll ask my own question and then answer it. Why would anybody take your course? You give so much information, so many resources. You're always just giving everything. And so, friends, my social media sharing and on the YouTube channel, I think paints the picture of what I do. My course delivers how to do it in a cohesive, comprehensive way so that you can actually sit down and learn something and do it instead of where was that and go back here and go back there. And by a long shot, not nearly all of my information is out on social media, but people tend to think that. I think the biggest problem that my online course has is there's so much of it. People really have to take small bites to really digest it. But anyway, so get on my wait list if you want, and just keep your eyes peeled because there's some really fun stuff coming up for that. All right, Utah and Southeastern Virginia. So let's see what Linda Frazier asked. When should I plant my feverfew seedlings outside after starting them inside? Thank you. So Linda, you trying to stick with, if you're going with the cool flower concept, that concept means planting those things that are winter hardy in your zone that prefer transplanting, which feverfew is that, 6 to 8 weeks before your first expected hard frost. So you need to know, again, we need to know what our first and last historical frosts are, and that's totally where you work from, because you don't want to plant them too early because then they grow too big before they go into winter and they can sustain a lot of damage, right? So 6 to 8 weeks before your first fall frost is your target time. We've started our feverfew. It's tiny, but we know that we'll be planting them. My target plant is mid-September to the 1st of October, but the last 2 years I've planted so much later because it was still too warm. So that's kind of what I'm going with this year. So you kind of have to judge from your own experience and your own region. So Martha says, thank you for adding us to specials. Yeah, and so really that's why we extended the special offers over on our live shopping event that happens on Fridays. It used to end Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time. That's when Kelly took the button and took down all the special bundles and special offers. I mean, we do things like free seed orders that only have seed packets in them, not cover crop. Seed packets in it. I pay the shipping. That's one of the specials that's available from when the show airs on Fridays. And it used to be Saturday mornings. Well, now it's Sunday mornings till 8 a.m. And that is really our way of honoring people and showing all these flowers that we're growing each week. And people are like, oh my gosh, I have to grow that. But I just ordered seeds last week. I don't want to pay shipping again. That's why we offer free seed packet only shipping for a period of time after the live show. So people can buy seeds every week, and we have people that buy seeds every week as they see new flowers come available and see it in person. That's kind of why that happened. So you're welcome, Martha, and we appreciate it so very, very much. So Martha also says, love, thank you. Oh, wait, here it is. I hit the wrong one. There you go. Love your Seed Talk. Seed Talk is a new series that our seed manager, Lane, kind of brainchild that. She's the one that gets all of y'all's questions. When people drop the social media questions or email the office saying, I have this question about this or that, about related to seed, she's the one that ultimately answers them after she and Rhonda and I kind of powwow over them sometimes. And so Lane thought, let's take those questions and make a podcast series. And I think there's 3 or 4 of them up. And I will tell you, they are awesome. Lane, who is an engineer by trade, and is quite well versed in the deep dive science side of everything. She comes behind me and then kind of tells you the after story. It's really pretty awesome. So I invite you to watch it, and again, drop us a review if you enjoy it so that our podcast people will show us to more folks. So yeah, thank you, Martha, for sharing that. Good morning, North Carolina. Thank you so much. Jessica, hi, Flower Mom. That is so cute. What's the warmest daytime temperature you'd be willing to plant cool season annuals into Bio 360? What a good question. We've had record heat the last couple of weeks, and I'm worried about cooking my seedlings. So, I mean, the rule would be the same for any time of the year. If it is going to be, sorry, all my ears hurting. If it's going to be 80 degrees or above, if it was cool flowers, I'd wait to make my beds. I mean, well, first off, we make our beds way and far in advance. So my black side is already up, which may be the case for you. But I would delay, if it's over 80 degrees, your high for the afternoon is going to be over 80 degrees or even close to 80. I'd worry. I would wait. And I would then just delay my planting. If you have cool flowers that are sitting in trays that are getting ugly, I'd pinch them if that's what you need to do. But I think the risk of losing them in the tray is slimmer than cooking them in a day out in the garden. So below 80 degrees, probably below 78. And I just saw a picture today or last night. I was looking for pictures for Suzanne. They're actually finishing up our digital catalog for 2023. And she asked me for a picture. Anyway, I came across an image this past early spring where I had done half, I had hoops down, planted in black film, and it got warm and windy. And I did half moon. I pulled the row covers up on the sun side to shade the bed. You have to have big jumbo clips to attach the row covers to your wires and to not rip them. I roll the row covers up and then I pinch them. We use those big, there aren't any in here, big jumbo, I mean big like in this long with a rubber end to attach them. And that works really well to provide to protect them from the afternoon sun is what I'm trying to say. And it's vented, you know what I mean? So it's not trapping heat under there. So good question. Bethany, I'm growing under T5 lights. I think you've mentioned these lights are hotter. Yes, they are. They are currently 10 inches above seeded soil blocks. Too close, too far. What do you think? Thanks, Lisa. Okay, Bethany. So my T5s, which I have come to love them a little bit, maybe not love them. That's a strong word, right? I've learned to use them for their problem that I thought they were in the beginning, which is too much heat. Mine put off a lot of heat. If I had, so do you have, I mean, you should have sprouted plants in those blocks if they're under grow lights. If they are not cooking, y'all, I'm sure there's a mouse over there. I just heard something else creak. I need that snake to come out here. I'm more afraid of mice than I am of snakes. Is that kind of crazy? Sorry, I keep listening. Crazy. So if your blocks are under the light and the lights are 10 inches away and they've got seedlings in them and they are not getting toasted, then maybe it's not too close. My T5s are probably 20 to 25 inches. 20 inches probably away from my seedlings. And they still kind of heat them up. And so what I have started doing now, because, you know, the grow lights that we sell are T8s or T12s. They're both about the same. And they're warm, not hot. So I have because you can put them much closer, I have a whole shelf of just them. They're shelves like this far apart. The T5 shelf, which is right next to it, I lose every other shelf because I had to eliminate them to accommodate these T5 lights. But what I've learned is if I have, that's where I put the Rudbeckias, trying to get them to grow a little bit faster, right? So I kind of have grown to like them. So you'll have to really judge, Bethany. If your stuff is over dry when you come out in the morning, move the lights further away. If they're not and they're growing well, then you'll just have to really, kind of try to judge that, right? There is something in here, y'all. So if I run screaming in a minute, it's something that I didn't expect, or maybe something I did. All right, Nancy asks, sweet peas are hardy to zone 7. If they grow by the roadside in zone 6B, are that an indicator that they can be grown here over winter? What a good question. Those that you see growing on the roadside, I would almost 100% promise you that they are not the same type of sweet peas. These are annual sweet peas. That is the perennial. They have a different botanical name, and I don't know. I can't pronounce either one. I can't remember what the perennial is, but it's a totally different animal. Because yes, you are right. The perennial sweet pea is actually invasive in more northern regions, but it's a totally same great grandparent, but not the same family at this point in time. So if you're in 6B, I would definitely try overwintering sweet peas. You first off want to get them in the ground when they're only about this tall, get them rooted in. We only take 2 weeks, the large blocker. Get them in a well-drained area where you can give them some row cover protection from wind, maybe up in some kind of little microclimate, and see what actually happens with them, because you're right on the cusp, right? But excellent drainage is one of them. So my Facebook user must be talking about the snake. Yeah, it kind of freaked me out. I mean, if it had fallen on me, I would have definitely freaked out, but I had the dog on a leash walking in the front door. So when I opened it, he fell right in front of us, and he was really kind of cute. He was only about this long, and he was striped. And I think Steve said it was a black racer, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, even though I don't mind snakes, I don't like to be startled by them. No, oh, so well about those snakes. They freak me out. So I'm always trying to make sure to watch out for them. But falling off the door really would have sent me out there. Yeah, it would. And you know what? I had like 16 minutes before I had to come on here with y'all. I hadn't changed my clothes. I hadn't brushed my hair. You know, it was like I had so much to do. I didn't have time to panic, which sometimes really helps, right? So yeah, totally there with you. So there, her question is, down further. Cynthia, yes, my friends love the small ones also. Yeah, you know, I mean, those small sunflowers are like, for those of you that are in the flower world, there are all kinds of mums, chrysanthemums that look like little small black-eyed Susans or sunflowers, and the florists love those things. Well, that's what these little sunflowers like. Susan, can I start sunflower seeds and transplant this fall, zone 7? Well, Susan, it's all about your frost date, not your zone. So sunflowers are warm season tender annuals. They cannot be wintered over. So what you're seeing me start is going to bloom before winter comes. So you just have, these take 0 to 60 days from seed to bloom. A little bit longer in the fall, so you have to account for that. So you have to see, do you have 60 days before your first expected frost? And you're going to have to give them a little TLC. You know, I might have to throw a row cover on these if we're going to have a below freezing night and the plants are pretty big, but you know, like they're setting bud and you know they're going to bloom next week if you give them a little bit of attention. It just depends on how bad you want sunflowers, right? So here's the question. Can you succession plant cool flowers to extend bloom time in spring, or will they catch up and bloom at the same time? Black-eyed Susans. What a great question, Sunny South. 4U1. Not sure if I said that right. And so funny that the podcast I just recorded recently that I think is coming out Tuesday, which is talking about embracing seasonality. One of the things that I talk about is that almost everything can be succession planted, right? Just really but it's really custom to you. How long is your warm, humid season? How long is your cool, non-humid season? All those things play a role. But so I'm going to say this first, and then I'll go back and tell you what I did with black-eyed Susans and how it worked out. You can pretty much manipulate and succession plant most anything. But what I've learned is, do you want to do that? Because sometimes when you succession plant some things, the end result of the ones that you didn't plant at their real prime time isn't just good enough quality. Either it falls victims to disease and pest, or it's not tall enough, or it's not abundant enough to make it worth all that extra work, right? And so the point of that whole podcast was I had to learn and train myself to embrace seasonality instead of trying to push something even longer and longer. What is the natural next thing that's supposed to be blooming for me to really take advantage of? Because I believe that our customers crave seasonality, just like we should, just like seasonal food, right? I mean, a winter tomato does not taste like a summer tomato that's grown outside in the heat, right? So I just want to say that, like for me, another example is I can grow snapdragons way into summer. Following a podcast Dave Dallin and I did, we talked about the groups of sunflowers and how you can do that. I can grow pretty tall snaps in July, but guess what? They get rust so bad, which is a disease, because it's a vulnerable time for them. That is not their time. They like cool weather, right? So that's what you have to consider. Now, my Black-Eyed Susan experiment worked pretty good. We fall plant all of the Rudbeckias, right? There's winter hardy to zone 5. Well, and we get, I mean, if you did not see the reel that I did on Instagram back in May and June of the Rudbeckias, oh my gosh, it would bring a tear to your eye. They are so tall. Sahara, 36 inches. All of them are so tall and abundant because of fall planting. I then planted them again in very early spring, which is 6 to 8 weeks before my last spring frost. They definitely performed well. They were they were tall enough, but they were not nearly as tall, and they were not as many stems, and they definitely fell victim to aphids much quicker than the fall planted. We know that less established, weaker plants definitely attract pests and diseases. We know that's science, right? So you can do it, and you really can't gauge yourself on what I do, because it is really all about what your season is. Most years we go from winter to summer here where I am. We don't get spring-like conditions, cool nights, coolish days. We go right from cold to hot. But the last year we did. So it's really hard to judge that. And you just really have to experiment. And there Cheryl is, one of our students. I'm overwintering delphiniums this winter in zone 9B. I don't know if it will bloom, but I will give it a try. So Kathy's Flower Patch. If you're talking about true delphiniums like Pacific Beauties or Pacific Giants or the belladonnas, all of them are truly perennials, like people up north in zones 6, 5, 4, and 3, fall plant them like they do all the perennials. They winter over and they bloom their heads off for them in June and July. Those of us that live in the South, like you do in 9B, where, you barely have a winter, delphiniums will winter over beautifully and bloom the following year in June, typically. It is late summer that kills them. It's that hot, humid conditions that makes them fall victim to pests and diseases primarily. So definitely they should win. I don't know if you're just planting them now or if you actually had them blooming, but I bet it'd be real interesting to see how they do, but they will definitely winter over where you are. All right, Facebook user. I'd like to know, how do you start Sweet Rocket? Sweet Rocket is not a cool flower that I actually grow. That's a true biennial. Carnation, Billy Buttons are actually called Billy Balls. Indoor, outdoors, cover seed or not. Also, can I start Foxglove and Delphinium? Zone 7A, first frost date, mid-November. Okay, first off, you can go to my website and go to our store, go to seeds, and go to the cool season category. Every one of our seeds has all that information right there on the store. You can read it right there. It comes on our seed packet as well, of all of the Billy Balls and the carnations. It tells you whether to cover it. And Foxglove and Delphiniums, I mean, again, you just need... I don't know if you've checked out the Cool Season Flower Chronicles, which is a blog on my website that has a ton of resources, will help you. Foxglove, I believe, is winter hardy to zone 5. Delphinium, as I just mentioned, is a perennial. So both of them would definitely winter over. So yeah, you can go to our website and check that out, or check those resources out. I'm just so excited about Cool Flowers and starting class. I'm so happy. Aw, thanks, Susie Q. Rose says, the basic course is amazing. I will watch it again over and over. So friends, if you don't understand, until I took an online course, I really didn't get how that all worked. First off, when you purchase our online courses, you have lifetime access. As long as the internet's up, it's going to be there. You just have to have access to log into your online library, and all the courses you buy from us will be right there. You can go in and watch them over and over again. And each year, we're trying to make them friendlier and friendlier for that purpose, because we know that most people, in fact, spend more time going back after the class is over and using them as reference tools. Then you can't take it all in. When I take you through the 6 weeks of class, your head will be exploding. I mean, you'll take in the things you're struggling with then, but there's 99% of the information just will go right over your head. And 6 months later, when you get to that, you'll say, oh my gosh, I got to go back in and listen to that again. It's the repeat going in. Do you know that I learned how to make online courses from an online course? I took that course in 2016. This is 2020. This is 20. I can't even talk. 2022. I still go back in there all the time. And it's like, I know that I'm not doing everything I learned in that class. You know what I mean? It's like you take in where you are. And that's a really big one. So thank you, Rose, for sharing that. Kathy, this is also my first year attempting to sell my flowers. I got a couple of florists that show interest. Oh, Kathy, good for you. I'm so really glad, and welcome to, I don't know if you're a student or not. I'm sorry. I don't know everybody's name. I mean, there's thousands of students in there now. But what you don't want to do, I tell you, one of the things I will say this, and then I'm going to move on from my course, is one of my goals with my course is to teach flower growers how to become a professional. You don't want to start dabbling and ward off, maybe offend, make people think you're not a professional by not going in there, because we see it every single day. I heard it from the florists that I sold to for the people that came before me, right? You just can't imagine. There is such demand for local professional flower growers. And that's my goal, and Dave Dowling's goal, and Steve and Gretel's goal, and Jenny Love's goal, and Ellen Frost's goal, and Amelia. I mean, all of our instructors, that's our goal, is to help develop more professional cut flower growers. Honey, as long as we are importing $8 billion of flowers into this country every year from, $8 billion sold every year, and 80% of them are imported, there is no ceiling on growing cut flowers and selling them. You just have to be a professional, figure out how to sell it and how to meet these people in the way that they're used to buying them. And it's endless. And so I am happy for you, Kathy, and I hope you continue on. Martha, I'm in New Hampshire, Zone 6B. Our first frost date is September 30th. But in the last few years, it goes way later into October. Yes, amen to that. Same here with us. Is it worth trying to direct seed some cool flowers today? So let's see, you said frost. Yes, for sure. Because if you get them in the ground and water them and keep after it, water them every day, trying to get those husks to break and get them up. And then if you get a deep dive cold, just hoop and row cover them. That buys you several degrees of protection, and the blocking of the wind will really help. So Martha, yes, do it. 6A. Yeah, I gotcha. But I would y'all, that's where the payoff comes, is sometimes when we do these little extra things. And, again, don't plant half your farm in this experiment. but plant enough that you can judge and know whether to try it again next year. Morning, Lisa. Feverfew is a perennial here in the Pacific Northwest. How should I do with my plants from this season? Leave them, mulch them up. So, Geneva, it really depends on the variety. Feverfew is known to reseed, and I do have, only because this is right outside of my kitchen window, that I've observed this here where I am. There is one plant out of many that perennialized, meaning that same plant, I see it out of my kitchen window when I make coffee every morning, stays there, it blooms, and then that plant never dies and disappears. But that's only, and it's right up against my house. So I'm sure that there's like a little microclimate there, right? And there are other plants that have that same behavior, that a handful, a low percentage of them overall will perennialize. And that is not true of all the different varieties. All these new hybrid feverfews that we grow, all the Vegmos, Virgo, all of them, because we grow them all, they will not follow that same behavior. So my method of madness as a grower, you cannot plan around that. So yes, we pull them out, or you mulch them, you till them in and we plant new ones every fall is what I'm saying to you. And then again in very early spring. So, you'll have to take that with a grain of salt. It really depends on where you are. If you're a small grower, you need every square inch to really count. To have a spotty bed of those feverfew are going to totally screw you up next spring. So there you go. Susie Q. I started my Bells of Ireland. They took off. Are they too big for overwintering in Philadelphia 77B? I started my bells. They took off. I mean, it really depends on how big they are, but what do you have to lose at this point unless you need that to have that space 100% guaranteed? I mean, we know that there are people in zone 6B that have overwintered Bells of Ireland outdoors with a little help, meaning low tunnels. But if they're pretty big, I mean, if they're over 12 inches, they're just more vulnerable. It may be worth it, but, do you have time to replant them? Probably not. So again, you just have to be mindful of that. And look who this is. This is Dana Bergman. She was our winner yesterday. We do a giveaway every week on our live show over in the Gardener's Workshop live shop. And Dana got the prize yesterday. She got killer stuff. My coffee mug that I drink out of, not mine, but the same kind. I had them made for the Gardener's Workshop. They're tall tumblers, a t-shirt, and a Gardener's Workshop Lands End hat with our emblem on it. So, all right, Dana, sorry. One florist asked for small sunflowers, but they don't want to pay market price for them. Are you selling at the same price? This is a great question. Also, they think the two petals lifted won't open. How do you educate them nicely? So, first off, what I do, that's a great question. This applies actually to other varieties of plants or stems of flowers. When I create my availability list, this is one of the things I teach about in flower farming school. I try not to change my price through the season or the description. I try to train my customers. They know what to depend on. And so my sunflower line would say something like, it would have sunflowers, orange, and I'm trying to think back how for sunflowers I actually did it. It would probably say 10 to 15 stems and whatever the wholesale price would be. And so why it says 10 to 15 stems during the heat of summer, when you're giving them those bigger sunflowers, there'd be 10 in that bunch. But as the sunflowers get smaller, the price stays the same, but they actually get more stems per bunch. Does that make sense? And I also had customers that worried about, I had one who actually, he was one of my best customers. He had been so burnt by shipped in sunflowers that never opened. He would not accept a sunflower less than this. So it took me probably about 3 years I would harvest those sunflowers when we would harvest twice a week. When I would harvest on the end of the week, those tight closed sunflowers that could open over the next few days, I would keep his bunches from the end of the week. I would keep them in the cooler over the weekend, take them out on Sunday so that by Tuesday, when it's my florist delivery day, they'd all be open. And then, after you're, got a great relationship, they know how to trust you. You can say, let me tell you what I do with these. I can bring them to you, and they'll even have a longer vase life. I can bring them to you closed with those couple of popped up. And by the time you use them this weekend, they'll all be open. So you'll have to test the waters on that. But I totally get that. Some florists want me to bring them wide open, ready to roll out of the box. So I opened them for them. I cut them at the proper stage. They don't want this. This is still one that's opening, right? They don't want that. They want these guys that are wide slam open. And that's what I would do with that. That's how I would handle it. And once you get them on hook, line, and sinker, then you will know. And here's another Facebook user. That's one of our online courses. So Susie Q, some tips for foxgloves if possible. Foxgloves, we don't sell those as cuts. Many plants are toxic to kids and animals, to dogs and cats. Digitalis, which is what foxgloves is, can be fatal. And so I stopped growing foxgloves commercially just because you only have to have one conversation on the phone with somebody about whether their cat or their dog or their kid actually bit it, which really isn't your problem, right? But it is your problem to know I'm never having that conversation again. And that's why you'll see that we don't sell digitalis seeds anymore for that reason. It's just a hard line in the sand, right, to draw. And yes, there are other, Gumpacarpus, sweet pea seeds are poisonous, but digitalis is deadly. And it's the same digitalis people take for their hearts, right? So it's a tiny seed. It's surface sown. It needs cool conditions, like it's a cool flower. So you would start it indoors, and you need the variety that is not a true biennial. Most of them are true biennials, which means they don't follow the cool flower concept. But I grew Foxy, and that variety is from seed to bloom in 16 weeks. And I just followed the cool flower concept for them. Sometimes I have trouble finding information that I need to read. I'm not sure I understand. I'm not sure if you're talking about course or just in general online. Here's our friend Wanda from Alaska. Today is her last farmer's market, and she has 2 more weeks of sunflowers coming on. I'm sure you can find some commercial customers to take those for you. And so Caroline, it's already after 12 o'clock, y'all. I got to go. Caroline's asked tips for drying. So you can see there's a lot of my drying stuff over there. We just hang stuff up and take it as it is. We don't do anything beyond that. That's it. And I learned that from my good friend, Ellen Frost, who is our instructor for growing your business with locally sourced cut flowers. She teaches your commercial customers why and how they should buy from local people and why that is such a marketing niche and how to actually go about all that, right? And so because she buys 100% local product, right? If you don't follow Ellen, you need to on Instagram. It's Local Color Flowers. That's the name of her design studio in Baltimore. She is year round, and she only uses flowers grown within 100 miles of her design studio year round, y'all. It's amazing. And if you go to her Instagram feed and scroll through, everything you see was grown by local growers like me and you, if you're a grower. And this course, she's got a couple of courses. She also has an on-demand course with us now on preparing to sell to florists. If you want the down and dirty on selling to florists, that's what she is basically. We have a course that you can go in and buy and watch that for a deep dive on selling to florists. But I learned from Ellen because all of the product that she buys is local. That means she has it's called shrinkage in the florist and grocery store world. Shrinkage is the product you throw away that goes bad before you can sell it. And in the flower world, that is high because so many of them are so badly damaged from being shipped in, right? I mean, they've been in a box. They don't ever rehydrate. That's the whole problem with shipping flowers. So because she buys local, her flowers look great for a long time. She hangs anything that she does not sell, she hangs to dry because they're in such good shape for so long, but they do reach a point where you don't want to sell them fresh anymore, right? Because there's not enough life left. And so she does an amazing, and you'll see it, and you can actually, maybe I'll post it here soon. You can request her webinar on her making dried wreaths. Her business in October and November is doing all this dried work with all of this dried stuff, just like mine, that she just hangs from her studio's ceiling. And so she's really not wasting one stem of flowers. So just hang them up is what I'm saying to you. It's cool and dry in here. And, that's all that's all that we do. And as she said, she dries everything and she learns what looks really cool. And is it over there? Let me see. Oh, they've moved them. We're getting ready to sort out some of these. The Bupleurum dried beautifully, and the Ami Magus. I mean, there was such cool. We discovered things that we would have never dreamed of drying that really dried cool. And we do the same thing. That's what we do with a lot of our show product that you see sitting here behind me. It's people ask me about buying it all the time. It's like, no, it's too old. It's already bloomed out. It's at the point where it needs to be in somebody's hands already, but we hang it up and dry it. So thanks for joining me here today. Remember, you can head over, grab the Gardener's Workshop Live Shop app. The specials are still good until Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time. So you can go in there and take advantage of this week's specials or whatever week you're in when you're watching this. And friends, it helps me so much for y'all to subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and in Facebook, share it with those people that you think would benefit. And thank you so much. And somebody's asking, I see that says something about warning on packets. So y'all, most flowers are toxic or are poisonous. And so we don't go there. And that's not something that I go down a rabbit hole on. And so that is something that people need to investigate. Cut flowers that we grow and sell are not sold for consumption, and nor are the seeds that we sell. We don't talk about edible flowers. And so that is something that is really important to you, I mean, if you have a situation, then that's something you need to go down. But I'm afraid you're going to find that many flowers. I just had this conversation with somebody the other day. And I said, what about this? It's poisonous. And she's a science person and said, do you realize that most flowers are? And anyway, it's a deep thing. So no, I don't go into that. So friends, till we meet again, I hope to see you Friday inside the Gardener's Workshop Live Shop. I can't even speak. Go to your app store, pick it up, and meet me there. You can go in and watch all the replays too. The really cool thing about the app is you can go to the products and there's little video clips that get put on the products automatically. That's why we love it. And you can hear what I had to say about it. All right, friends, until we meet again, ciao.